Good afternoon. Welcome to the Network Outdoors Podcast. I'm Brandon Malson, your host today. And I am sitting here. Usually I'm doing some sort of studio from either my camper, my kitchen, someone else's studio. And today I have a very, very special guest on the line, actually in person. And we met at I guess it's a mutual place, but if we would have met at each other's house, I think it might have even been closer. But this is a special place near and dear to anybody coming up to chase some trout in Michigan. We are in Baldwin at the Pere Marquette River Lodge, and we are literally in the lodge. What is this, a family room?
Yeah, it's
surrounded by mounts, and I've got a bear behind me. And for anybody that's not going to see the video, this is a pretty cool little place. But beyond where we're here, we have a special guest, Tristan Bianchi, on here. You may know him as Hippie Mountain Man on Instagram. We'll get into how to get a hold of him, but Tristan, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Brandon. I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, no, really appreciate you making the trip. I'm glad we could put this together. We've been following all that you do for quite some time. So the thought of getting you on the podcast, we're thrilled. We're going to try to keep it to a minimum time today. I don't know if that's going to be possible. We might have to break this up into two depending on what we get into, but or at least have you back out here.
Hey,
but
we can do it again.
Thank you for being on today.
Hey, I appreciate you having me.
So you run for anybody that follows you, you post beautiful pictures of all sorts of trout, and it's year round.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
You run an organization called Michigan Trout Addicts, right?
Yes, I'm actually a board member. It was originally started by a good friend of mine, Matt Gaylor. He also is the owner of Lake Effect Lures. He recently stepped down from the board just because Lake Effect Lures has taken off in such a big way. He just didn't have the time. So he appointed Steve Myers as the new head. And Steve is a great friend of mine. I'm originally from Ludington, Michigan. Steve is also from Ludington, Michigan. So we're great friends. He's done a great job since he's taken it over. The organization, started by Matt, was just originally kind of like a photo gallery he wanted to start of the trout he was catching, but the community grew very, very fast, and he decided to start some catch and release trout tournaments, which is something that I had never heard of. And Matt's big thing has always been wanting to give back. And so his goal has always been to give back, especially to kids. So with these tournaments, it's a nonprofit organization. It raises money for children in need. And the tournaments we've been running the last couple of years has been going to Angelman Syndrome Foundation, raising money, and then also about bringing people together in the community, education, getting as many people into the sport, this way of life that we all love so much.
Wow. That's really neat. And so you've been involved for quite some time.
I have. Actually, Steve originally got me involved. I had never even heard about it. But Steve and I, good fishing friends, and he was like, you really got to check out this organization. It's really cool. They run these trout tournaments. And I'm like, trout tournament? I'm like, how is that even possible, you know? And you know, it was on, and it's run through Facebook. And I was always skeptical about social media and fishing at that time. This was probably, 7-8 years ago, because I saw so much negativity, that was pointed at people just for posting pictures of fish and whatnot. So I was always a little skeptical, and he's like, no, man, he's like, it's completely opposite. Matt's done such a great way of starting this organization, man. He keeps all the negativity out. It's really become like a family. And it truly is. And I got brought onto the board now 2 years ago. And after fishing the tournaments and stuff and really becoming friends with so many different people, and it's been just absolutely great. I can't tell you how many friends I've made through Michigan Trout Addicts. We've done so many trips together. We've done board member trips. meeting up and fishing with people. It's just been such a fantastic opportunity and a great organization with this family atmosphere that I truly love.
That's really cool. And so it morphed into posting pictures into multiple tournaments a year. Now,
Yeah.
I'm guessing participants, talk to us a little about that. So they pay to get into a tournament, the winners and stuff. There's maybe a prize, but a lot of it also goes back to the nonprofit to do its good work.
Yes. So there's the opener tournament, which is the first of the year, the closer tournament, which is the end of the year. You're talking about
opener for trout, closer for trout.
Well, they just call them the opener.
January 1.
They call them the opener tournament, but it's not necessarily on the opener of trout season. It used to be the first weekend after opener, trout opener or opener season. But this year with Mother's Day and stuff, it was a couple weeks later. So it was like mid-May sometime.
Okay.
And so we run the opener, closer, and then we also have a women's tournament and a youth tournament. The opener tournament it was roughly 60 teams this year.
Wow.
And it can be teams of one or two, mostly two, but you do see some solo teams. You get winning. There's cash prizes, and there's also trophies. There's trophies for first, second, third, biggest rainbow, biggest brown, biggest brookie, and there's also the trifecta trophy, which is this really cool painting of all three trout on this log thing that an artist from one of our board members, Ben Redmond, he knows the artist and has them make it. They donate the trophy for the tournament. The trophies are fantastic too. They're done by
so cool.
They're done by the Mike Overla. He does this metal work. They're fantastic, beautiful trophies. And it's your top three largest fish measurement wise. And
combination of
the top.
Gets it.
Yep, and then it goes right on down from there. And it's the opener tournament is the bigger of all the tournaments. It has the most participants. Like I said, it can be anywhere from 60 to I think we had 70 teams last year. Closer tournament is right around 40, and then you're looking at 15 for like the women's tournament and children's tournament, which has been slowly growing every year and getting more people involved. And
so good.
Yeah, it really is it's a great thing. It's something I never thought was even possible, a trout tournament, but it really is a fantastic thing. And the lead up to the tournaments is just fantastic. Watching all these people catch, I've participated in them. I did participate in them for quite a few years, and now running them and receiving all the pictures and the stories from people catching their personal best, and are just crazy encounters they have while on the river. It's really just a crazy weekend of just tons of information, tons of stories, and just smiles on people's faces. And
it's Friday to Sunday, or
it is. It starts Friday at 5:00, I believe, and goes till Sunday at
PM?
2. Yep, 5 p.m. So after people get out of work, and it goes to 2 p.m. on Sunday. The women's tournament, I believe, is 2 days. The children's tournament or youth tournament is just a 1 day, just a Saturday. But the big tournaments, the opener and closer, are from Friday at 5 p.m. to Sunday at 2 p.m. And you can fish through the night. You can fish anywhere in the state.
Awesome.
Any river, anywhere you want. The way it's set up is when you make your purchase, you automatically get, you choose like a piece of apparel. So you get like a shirt or a hoodie, something like that. And then you also get a bump board. And then a call card will actually come in the mail roughly about a week before. And on that call card, it leaves a code or a space for a code. And then we do a live video session that Friday about 10 minutes before the tournament starts, give you a code. You write the code on the call card. Put the fish, if you catch fish, put it on the bump board with your call card so it has the code on it so you can't cheat.
Gotcha.
Take the photo real quick, send it in, release the fish. good to go.
Because I was thinking, how can you keep people honest? You'd hope people don't cheat, but you don't know.
You don't. And
there's cash involved.
Yes, exactly. So, and Matt, man, he really did a fantastic way of figuring out, the call cards have a watermark on them, releasing the code an hour before and still allowing people to catch and release, take that quick photo on the bump board. Oh, let the fish go and you're good to go. And you send in the photos.
Anywhere in Michigan.
Anywhere in Michigan. Anywhere.
Could be a river. It could be a lake.
It can be a lake.
Okay.
Yep. These
streams or rivers.
Yep. Streams or rivers is what it's down to. So no lake fishing, no pond fishing. If you're caught doing something like that, you'll be booted, or never allowed to do again, which we've never had that happen. So, like I said, the community has become such a family thing that, like, trust really isn't even an issue.
Yeah.
We've had barely any issues whatsoever over the years.
That's great.
It truly is a fantastic thing.
Well, we're gonna have to put those dates and everything on our website and a link for people to sign up.
Absolutely,
we'll make sure we do that when we get out of here. But that we obviously missed the opener tournament. When is the last tournament?
The closer tournament we are still figuring out the dates for. It's in September, but with the early youth hunt and Labor Day, and school starting and stuff like that. So we're trying to figure out that perfect weekend right now. And I forget, they had a meeting the other night, which I couldn't attend, and they might have actually come up with the date, but I will let you know.
Okay.
But off the top of my head, I don't know.
We'll announce it, put it on our website.
But it will be in September.
Excellent. Mm-hmm. Well, no, we'd love to be a part of that for sure.
Sweet. Thank you.
So the pictures you post on social media are incredible, and you almost don't miss a beat, man. Every single day, there's just this beautiful some sort of trout species.
Thank you.
You're primarily a fly fisherman? You consider yourself, or anything?
Both. I would never consider myself just a fly fisherman. I love fly fishing. It's probably my favorite. Especially probably dry fly fishing, but I love spin fishing too. I have groups of friends that do, that are strictly spin fishermen. I have groups of friends that are strictly fly fishermen. So kind of depending who I'm going fishing with is what I'm going to make that choice on. And also I've got, over the years, I've kind of broken down the times of the year and the different things I like or what I prefer to do. And so I kind of break my year apart into different, categories. So like this certain time of year, I might be fly fishing more, or this time of year, I might be spin fishing more, or something like that. And I truly just enjoy fishing. Fishing is my life. So any style of fishing is fun to me. I love getting out. I could pan fish. It doesn't matter. I just love fishing. So
if people want to get more into fishing and really dedicate some serious time into targeting certain species or certain, let's say they just want to do the lake, or they just want to do a river, or a certain section of Michigan. I have this idea I wanted to do it this year. Didn't happen. Next year, do some sort of trout tour.
Okay.
Where you're hitting the major rivers. We're lucky, man. Being here in Michigan, there's world-class fisheries all over.
It's amazing.
Yeah, you can throw a rock and hit a world-class fishery. It's unbelievable.
Couldn't agree with you more.
But even if you dial it down, there's some real special gems in the state. Mm-hmm. And so how, for those people that are outside of Michigan or even inside the state looking to experience some of the different areas, how do you like to spend your time throughout the seasons and targeting different species?
So I would say that, through all the years, and I'd say I've been trout fishing for over 30 years now. And like when it comes to like finding spots, it was always an adventure for me. But, being almost 40 years old when I started, we didn't have the internet really like we do today, or the information wasn't necessarily at our fingertips. So we did it, me and my buddy Will, who I owe like this whole lifestyle to. Because he's the one that was the first one to walk up to me on a river and show me how to catch a brown and a trout just in general, and caught my first brown and thought, oh my gosh, this doesn't belong here. This thing looks like it belongs in the Amazon or something. Like these colors are just crazy. You know, I'd been used to just, you know, warm water species fishing at the time. And so we got into it, man. And it was the road atlas. It was that old road atlas and traveling and hitting every spot we could find. And every weekend, any time off, it was always just traveling, trying to find, you know, the best spots we could find. And, you know, a lot of trial and error. You know,
Sure.
There were many fishing spots we tried that were not good. So, and nowadays, you know, with the internet and social media, there's a lot more information out there. So you can really find easier access to information, you know, researching. There's all different tools you can have to really help you kind of break your seasons down into sections. And for me, it's you know, I always, you know, start the year off ice fishing. So I'm always traveling around ice fishing.
Lower Peninsula, Upper Peninsula, out of state.
In state. I'm
Okay.
mostly. I do like to travel out of state to fish too. I don't get to do it as much. Hopefully this year, I got some friends on our ambassador team that are from Wisconsin. We met up in the Upper Peninsula this year. So I'm hoping to get over to Wisconsin possibly this winter.
Great.
And hit, you know, some of those bucket list lakes and that kind of
Oh,
stuff.
yeah.
So, you know, I really think, you know, like, you know, breaking your seasons down and kind of figuring out what you like to do best. You know, like I really, you know, enjoy dry fly fishing. So once June kind of hits, that's when I kind of like to turn tides into some dry fly fishing, and, you know, I'll stay consistently, but, you know, dry fly fishing for a while. And then as the water warms up, you know, I'll start hitting, you know, warm water species. I'll start going for smallmouth, pike, maybe do some pan fishing or some walleye fishing. So it's kind of knowing your seasons and bouncing around and going with what, you know, best feels right. And also like the responsibility of being a fisherman, you know, knowing when, you know, temperatures are too hot. And trout are such a delicate fish. And, you know, obviously we see this information being spread like a wildfire now. You know,
Well, and for those people that don't know right
yeah.
now, what's your threshold?
65.
That's a pretty low threshold too, because some people will push it.
Yeah, I tend to stick at 65. I think that's and like you were saying, we have such a great state that with so many different opportunities, so many different species that we can chase, that, you know, you can make that decision and say, okay, this is just, I don't want to harm this ecosystem. Let's go try something else.
Yeah. Yeah. I've heard at 70,
Yeah.
it's, that you got to get out of the water.
Yeah.
Like what are you doing at 69?
Yep.
And there's some places you might get your tire slashed if it's 71.
Oh yeah. Yes. I've heard some crazy stories.
Heard some very crazy stories. People get fired up, but it's, but Tristan's right. The trout are delicate, and unlike a lot of other species, it's primarily a catch and release fish.
Yes.
And so where there's a monster brown trout hiding under the log or feeding at nighttime, it's that same fish probably comes back there. And if all of a sudden you're killing it because it's 72 degrees in the water and you're trying to take pictures for it for a half hour and it doesn't wake, you're gonna be in some trouble.
Yeah. Yeah. And that, like I said, I'll totally admit, you know, I was a victim of my time.
Sure. If you don't know, you don't know.
I didn't know this stuff when I was younger. And so I probably fished, you know, during some of the worst times when I was younger, just searching and just, you know, I was just trying to fish. That's all I cared about. So, you know, I'm really pleased with some of the things that, you know, the internet and social media has done to bring this knowledge forefront, because it's such a beautiful thing. And to be able to, you know, we want to pass this down to our, you know, the next generations and keep these beautiful places, you know, as beautiful as we can, keep these species going, really working at, you know, catch and release to keep wild trout, you know, coming and that constant, of building these rivers back and getting them to the places they're supposed to be.
Absolutely. So let's start getting into some technical stuff, if that's okay with you.
Absolutely.
You're a wealth of knowledge. I know that for a fact. You work for a lure company.
I do.
Which is?
Lake Effect Lures.
Give them a little plug.
Yeah, Lake Effect Lures. It was originally RBM jigs, and they started off making steelhead jigs back in when they were in college, and painting steelhead jigs.
Awesome.
in their apartment. And then the tungsten revolution really hit, and so they jumped on board the ice fishing tungsten jigs, which have been a huge hit. We make our own ice rods. We just dropped our very first warm water series, a plastic swim bait with a Ned rig called the Feisty Fry.
I got to check that out.
Yeah, it has like a little insertable rattle. And plastics are actually huge over in Europe.
Really?
They're huge. People use them out there for trout, zander or walleye, as you know, a little bit different, but in pike, it's very, very big out there, and it's been kind of slow to go here, but it has been a very successful way of catching trout. And so jumping on that board has been kind of fun. And I've taken them out a few times here for some smallmouth and had an absolute blast with them.
Jeez. So you said you started off the year with ice fishing.
Yep.
This past ice year, hard water year, I saw some pretty cool, unique fish. Talk to us about those, and how did you go about targeting? What'd you do to find these things, and then how was your setup?
So it was so ice season was started, and you're always in that search for first ice. When you're in Michigan, that's the UP. The farther north you go, the colder it is.
Right.
So it was like, all right, let's go to the UP. Well, the one thing I hadn't done ice fishing yet was trout fished through the ice. Trout fishing was always my favorite. So I was like, man, I got to combine these two. Let's do some research. So I got online and just started researching lake after lake after lake and finding stocking and, just different forums and stuff and trying to find. We end up coming up with a list of, I think it was four lakes that we really wanted to hit. Two of which were had splake and two had brookies in them. And I had never caught a splake before. So it was like, let's go gangbusters. Let's try to get some.
And a splake is
a cross between a lake trout and a brook trout.
Unbelievable.
Yep. And and let me tell you, I don't know if it was pure luck or what, but we got into them, and man, do they fight!
Oh my gosh!
Holy moly!
I've never caught one myself. I cannot wait to get at them this winter.
Holy moly, man, are those things some rippers? They, especially once they get up to the hole, they did not want to come in. They just start head shaking. They got that. They kind of have the power of the lake trout, and then they have that feistiness of the brook trout. So it's a great combination of both. And man, that was definitely the signature trip of my ice fishing year, which I was all over the place. But being able to chase a new species, also a trout, through the ice in one of the most beautiful places in the world in Michigan's Upper Peninsula, it was fantastic.
Yeah, the UP is unbelievable, and to narrow it down to 4 lakes.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool to do. So we don't have to mention which 4 lakes those are, but you get to the place.
Yep.
And talk to us about your setup. So are you running electronics? Are you running what's your rig setup look like? What kind of line?
Yeah, so we the setup was like I said, was simply with the research, and then it's just kind of, and that's kind of the way I've always been. I've always just I don't know if it's something I'm good at, but I like to find new spots and that kind of stuff. So getting up there, of course I did a little bit of research about splake as well and that kind of stuff, and trying to figure out with what I have, lure wise, what would work well for chasing them. And we use Navionics is a good way to figure out your depth. And then you're trying to figure out, this was early ice too, so we didn't have machines or anything. It was walking it. So it was trying to find that spot where we can walk in. We don't have to walk too far. Somebody had fallen through the day before.
Oh, no
right
kidding.
There. So it was actually the first lake we went to was too dangerous. we could not fish it. So we end up.
What time of year is this right now?
This was December. This was
okay. So it was pretty early.
It was early. It was like December 12th or something.
I don't think nobody's ice fishing down in where I live, Metro Detroit.
No, I don't think anybody.
People are still bass fishing.
Yeah. There was not a lot. We had got word from a bait shop up there that there was plenty of ice to ice fish. When we got there, the first lake, and it was like 3 a.m. when we got there too, and we put one spud and it just goes right through, and we're like, oh no, did we just drive 7 hours and nothing's gonna be good? Luckily, the next 2 lakes were good.
Okay,
but so we, it was just kind of not knowing the species, just the little research that we did. We set up with our tungsten jigs and our plastics from Lake Effect Lures. I like to use fluorocarbon line. I think I had just a light action. They're called panty popper rods that we have, and tungsten jig, plastic, and just jigging. And then of course, I like to use Markham, for my sonar. And then it was just kind of feeling out the spot, jigging for them. And man, when they came in hot. It was absolutely great.
That's so cool. So you had a blast up there during ice season, got into some new species.
Yep.
Did you pull browns through with that setup too?
I did catch one brown.
No kidding.
I did. And supposedly, I'm going back this year for sure because supposedly there's some tank browns in there too. I did get one brown. I was very happy about that, being my favorite species and all, and getting one through the ice finally.
Would you say that's your favorite species?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, at 100%, the most beautiful fish in the world. It's been an addiction for me for over 30 years. Absolutely.
Awesome.
Yep.
All right. So that's ice fishing.
Oh yeah.
And then now let's dial it back. When do you stop ice fishing?
I mean, we'll chase it till the ice is gone. This past season was really great. It actually lasted long. But eventually, that mid-March, when pike season closes and some other seasons close and you start losing some shore ice and that kind of stuff, then I go straight into steelhead mode. Okay. Mm-hmm. Steelhead mode. Now let's talk about steelhead. Yes.
Where do you like to fish steelhead?
Top
five rivers if you were to look at Michigan.
Top 5 rivers.
No order, but just
man, I would go the White, Pure Marquette, Manistee, and Bear.
Awesome.
Did I get 5 there?
One more.
One more. Oh, what's another good one? Well, I gotta say it because I live there. The Rogue.
The Rogue.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot, but those are definitely the most popular ones.
Because you're over in the greater Grand Rapids area.
I am.
So I'm primarily all those rivers right there within what, a couple hours?
Yeah. Not too bad. And my hometown's Ludington, so coming up here to the PM is something I do a lot of too. So, but the Rogue is right across the street from me. Very popular steelhead waters. Sometimes it gets crazy. Steelheading has become such a popular sport over the last few years that it's just crazy. There's just people just shoulder to shoulder. So So I do like to, I have a lot of those spots that, I don't talk about as well.
Sure.
I really do enjoy all those rivers a lot.
You threw out some nuggets there. Nobody really talks about the Bear.
Yep.
Very few talk about the White.
Yep.
Everybody knows about the man and the PM, so we appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. I those are all real good rivers, especially if you're a beginner getting into it, man. Those are some good waters.
Are you walking in, or are you floating? What do you prefer?
I'm a wader.
There you
go.
go.
I am an absolute wader. I don't own a boat, drift boat myself. I have friends obviously with them and stuff, and I do.
Those are the best kind of boats.
Yes, but I haven't. I've been on the shelf for many years. But I've just been waiting my whole life, and so that's just what I'm used to. It's just get up and go.
So you find spots. Are you using map systems? When you first started fishing, you didn't have any of that stuff.
Yeah.
So are you still just going off of old old data, or how do you find new spots?
New spots, I use a lot of Google Maps, and just searching. And
what are you looking for in a river once you get there?
Like once I get there,
yeah,
I'm looking at temp, I'm looking at the bottom, I'm looking at structure, movement, flow, kind of a little bit of everything. You just kind of have that eye. But even so, though, I mean, I've seen plenty of water that looks like frog water, and there's some tanks in there, so I try not to judge it too much by what it sees, because there's also times where you could fish a stretch and the first half of it is garbage, and then you get to that second half and it's just, boom, dynamite. Or there might be a little tiny piece in the middle of that section or the last 3/4 of it or something that is just dynamite. So you got to kind of play, and you got to go through the trial and errors of finding something, and learning if it's good. And then also, one thing I've really learned too is, man, certain spots are good at certain times of the year. So that's one thing I've definitely put into play over the years of collecting as much information as I can, is kind of knowing, okay, this spot is good this time. So
now, is that based on different hatch patterns? Is it weather? Is it
everything?
Okay.
It's everything. I mean, there's certain stretches that are, in my opinion, are best just after a rain. So you hit that. So, okay, it's getting some rain tonight. I'm going to be there tomorrow morning.
After a rain, what are your go-to lures?
Oh gosh, man. I mean, if I'm spin fishing, Rapalas, the classics, spinners. That's how I learned how to trout fish, was with the old Panther Martin
nice.
As a kid. My buddy Will, threw that on. I don't even know what I was throwing on the river on his family's property, and he just laughed at me and was like, "What are you doing?" He threw on a Panther Martin, boom. But yeah, Rapalas are definitely just an absolute slayer when it comes to big trout. So if I'm spin fishing, I love throwing Rapalas. I don't, if I'm fly fishing, I don't streamer fish as much as I used to anymore. I've had some shoulder issues, so that kind of messes with me. If I do get on the drift boat, I like it. I think that advantage of being higher up gets a little less on my shoulder and stuff. So that's been a little easier for me when I do that. But, and then just certain times there's certain sections that are like, a hex hat section or a sulfur section, or I've just kind of dialed in enough information over the years. So it's like, okay, this time of year, this hatch might be happening on this section. I got to go.
Gotcha. What's your, so we know you spin fish,
Mm-hmm.
we know you fly, we know you do all sorts of stuff, but for back to steelhead, what's your go-to setup?
Fly
center
fishing.
pinning?
No, actually, I've never center pinned. I have never center pinned in my life, and I do want to try it. My setup is my 8-weight, my Sage 8-weight, indie rig. Indie rigging. I have my favorite fly is this hex nymph that Ray Schmidt. You ever heard of Ray Schmidt?
Mm-hmm.
He tied that up, and that is my favorite steelhead fly.
No kidding.
A lot of steelhead on that, and I've done it all though, beads and I've spawn fished. I've done it all over the years. But that would an 8-weight indie rig steelhead. That's my favorite.
So you're going for it versus without throwing egg patterns and
I do
skein and
I have
bobber downs.
You're
using nymphs.
So I am, but this year actually was the first year that I actually got to try jigs. The whole steelhead jig with a couple waxies on it, which I never heard of. Honestly, like
your pinks and your oranges and your whatever with some beads on it.
Being from up here, everybody was, either nymphing or streamer fishing or throwing spawn or skiing right under a bobber. I don't know, when I moved to GR, I hear about jigs and waxies, and I'm like, what?
Yeah.
And then obviously it joined Lake Effect Lures, and that's how they originally started with steelhead jigs. So this year I actually just went out with just my spin rod and threw the jigs, and we absolutely slaughtered them. We did.
I mean, you work for a company that literally got its roots from
yeah.
that season.
Yep. And so I was like, you know what? I gotta get into this. I gotta try this, you know? So I went out with the owner, Matt, and man, we had 2 really fantastic days steelheading together this year.
Did you go around Grand Rapids, or where'd you go?
We were just in the Grand Rapids area.
That's awesome.
Yep. Quick and easy, and had a blast. That's fun. So, and I'd like to throw those on a center pin, so I might end up purchasing one of those here in the near future, because it's something I just haven't done yet.
You see people do pretty good on. I mean, you see a video or a picture of the Grand River, and it's very obvious that's the Grand River downtown Grand Rapids there. Yeah. So it's no secret, but people do pretty well out there.
Yes, I do.
And that in all different ways of fishing. So I was curious what your go-to was.
Yep. But nymphing, definitely the old Indy rig would be my favorite when it comes to steelhead.
So then steelhead season, you start at, call it March.
March, yeah.
Rock through April.
Yep.
And then you start getting into what?
Brown trout.
Brown trout in May, June?
Yeah, May, man,
they're woken.
I mean, I also will fish for them too during steelhead season on, the open waters.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's as soon, and then once trout season hits, man, it's just gangbusters for me. That's my life.
Well, and people, gosh, you come up here, you come to any other river when people are really targeting steelhead.
Mm-hmm.
You find the diehard trout guys. They're fishing right behind.
Oh yeah,
because those trout, the big ones, they're fighting for their spot. They're there, man.
Oh yes, they are, man. They can. If you find the right spot, you can find some big browns feeding behind them steelhead, and my buddy caught a real nice, probably 21-incher, beautiful buck brown while we were out steelheading this year. Gorgeous fish, so it was really, really cool.
That's awesome. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was funny. I was walking. Where was I? I was at a local river around Rochester, actually. So I live in Rochester Hills, and we have the Clinton River that comes out of Lake St. Clair or dumps into Lake St. Clair.
Mm-hmm.
And Paint Creek comes into Clinton, and Clinton goes through. So there's this place called Yates Cider Mill. It's no secret. A lot of people go there. There used to be a dam where they get stuck, but now they're cut.
Okay.
So they get to travel up higher. They don't get pooled up there like it used to be shoulder to shoulder. So I go out there this year, and I figure, you know what, I've got a couple hours to burn. I'm gonna do a nice hike back on this old railroad.
Okay.
And I'm back there, and I bump into a couple guys walking out, and I was like, hey, how'd you guys do? And what do you? And we're just thinking everybody's out there fishing for the same thing. And they go, no, we did pretty well. We're not fishing for the same thing you probably are, though. I'm like, oh, you guys are trout guys. I love it, man.
That's awesome.
Yeah, there's like that, that pride. Yeah, no, I'm trout fishing out here. So you get into that season, first opening weekend. What's in your hand? What's the setup?
Well, opening weekend.
Are you spin fishing, fly fishing?
It just depends on who I'm with. We traditionally go to my buddy's cabin, actually not far from here, up here in the North Woods on a nice river. And the opening weekend can be such gangbusters. There's so many people out. So we're honestly just having fun. It's more of a camping trip. We usually kayak, take the canoes out. We don't really travel outside of the cabin area so much during that time of year, just because so many people are out. So we just kind of enjoy each other's company. We could dink around with the fly rods around the cabin. Usually, if we're in the kayaks, I take the spin rod. I don't take my fly rod out in the kayak with me, just because. Just a pain in the butt. So
sure.
So just kind of depending on what we're doing, and sometimes there's still some good steelhead in there too. So we might steelhead a little bit. We might brown trout. It's more of just dinking around. But usually in the beginning of the year when I start trout fishing, I'm spin fishing.
Okay.
I'm usually throwing wraps, for big browns in May, and then once June hits, I tend to kind of switch into a little bit more dry flying. Got out for the Hex Hatch this year with my buddy Brent. That was just one night, but it was a nice boat, and the hatch was thick as thieves for a solid hour, and There was not a lot of eaters. I did get a nice like 18-inch brown. So
there you go. Nice.
It was a good day, and then, it's just kind of one of those things I just feel out, and dry fly. And then, just depending if I'm switching it up with some other friends that might be doing something else, and kind of that brown trout fishing will carry on until, like I was talking about earlier, when the water warms. And then once that water gets to that spot, and then also though, I will search for those cold trips. I think it's very important to carry a thermometer with you, check your temperatures, because there are plenty of spots in this state that stay well under 60 degrees. In fact, the one I fished this week, a guy I know who lives there has never I think he's lived there for 45 or 50 years, has never seen the river over 60 degrees.
Wow.
So there are spots. So I still continuously trout fish during, the hot months of the year by fishing those tribs that I've found, those cold spring fed, creeks, which then, can allow you to get into some good brook trout water too.
Oh, yeah.
So I do have those spots. That's always something you can, as you spend more time, you find those, so you kind of add those to your list. So I can still brown trout fish, through these times, the warmer weather, time of year. But then also I get to switch it up, go chase some other species. It's great.
Yeah. That's cool. Mm-hmm. If you're walking around, if you're walking down the river, no boat, you're wading in.
Yep.
And newer spot.
Mm-hmm.
Some spot in Michigan.
Yep.
What makes you stop and say, I'm going to fish this spot right here?
Water. I have that.
What's your favorite setup?
What do you mean?
Like, do you like, that's a nice back eddy.
Oh, okay.
That bend right there. I bet you it's a.
Well, I'm looking for lots and lots of bends.
Sure.
That's something that I'm looking for when I'm looking on Google Maps. Is bend. If I can find lots of bends, then I know I'm going to be hitting some good pockets, hopefully. And then anything with structure. The structure is very, very key with brown trout. I think once you...
Now, you like falling down trees, like log jams.
Log jams are good, falling down, but just a tree along the bank.
Gravel going into stuff.
An undercut. Anything that can kind of keep them hidden, out of sight, and they can just attack from. And that's where you can find them big boys laying, because they will be very territorial too.
Oh, yeah.
They're extremely territorial. So even if they're not hungry, they will chase and attack something that's even in their spot. So you're finding those feeding fish that are hungry, and you're also finding the fish that you're really just trying to make mad and trigger that instinct of just biting and chasing something out of their area. They tend to get very territorial of those sections. So for me, it's just kind of reading, and when I see something in the river, and I'm like, that's where the trout is going to be. That's where he's hiding. He's going to be right in there somewhere. And then that's kind of what I tend to target, is those. You just for me, it's a feel. It's like, okay, if I'm a trout, that's where I'm going to be.
I like it.
Yep. And so that's what I hit.
You've caught a lot of fish.
Thank you.
Yeah, you've caught a lot of fish. You've shown a lot of fish. People love it, man.
Thank you.
It's pretty exciting, and it keeps you going. You get out there when you first start fly fishing, or you start fishing in general, and you're catching the little ones.
Yep.
But all of a sudden you get that first one to take a dry fly, or
the first 20-incher.
Oh my gosh! I caught my first 20-incher not too long ago.
Nice! Congratulations!
I fired up, man. 21-inch brown trout. So I've caught other trout that are 20 plus, but that was my first brown 21.
That's
I just got the chills when you just brought it up, thinking about it. It was unbelievable. And I got to see it take my fly too.
Was it did you get on a dry?
Oh gosh. Yeah.
Amazing. Good
I snuck up river. It was the whole setup was real cool. And it was from a guide actually that we hired out of here.
Awesome.
Wes, I had him on a previous podcast.
Okay, very cool.
But he brought us to a spot, and man, it was awesome.
Yep.
But out of all the fish that you've caught, what can you even think of your favorite fish?
Yes. It was.
I mean, fellas, ladies and gentlemen, this guy's caught a lot of fish.
So and honestly, it was probably the best day I've ever had fishing too. Which I got to give credit to my buddy JD. He always called these banner days. That was when there's just some days that are just banner days, and I always loved it when he said that. Yeah, and I was out with my good friend Eric Wright, and fishing one of my favorite stretches of river, and it really does contain some of the most beautiful browns I've ever seen in my life. And I caught 4 fish that day over 21 inches. Caught what? 2 21-inch and 2 25-inch.
Oh my
browns.
Gosh!
And so I caught.
Some people in a lifetime may never even see a 25-inch, let alone land 2 of them in a day.
And it really. So the first one, well, I caught the 2 21-inchers actually were the first 2 fish I caught. And there were other fish caught this day, but we're talking the big boys here. So the first 2 fish I caught, big fish I caught, were the 21-inchers, and then I end up catching this gorgeous 25-incher. And man, this crazy battle. And I remember looking up at Eric and telling him, like, man, I don't know if I'll ever catch a fish this pretty again. And I'm not kidding you, man. 20 minutes later, I caught another 25-inch brown, and it looked like the same fish, but it looked like an artist painted it. It was the most orange and just beautiful 25-inch buck brown. The spots, the color, the girth, the size of its head, its paddle for a tail, the adipose. I mean, it's the prettiest fish I've ever caught, for sure. And it just happened to be on that day too. So I think the combination of how pretty that fish was and how good of a day it was on the river, also the company I was with, my buddy Eric, it really was a perfect day. I mean, when I let that fish go, I remember thinking, I'm done. I don't even want to. I'm like, dude, you're up, dude.
This is a Michigan spot.
Oh yeah, yep.
Good for you.
It was in Michigan, absolutely. And 90, I'd say 95% of the fishing I do is here in Michigan. So. Yeah, it was, and actually that same river was the first place I ever caught my 20-inch brown came out of that river too, which is 20 years ago exactly, actually 2002, so 20 years ago.
If only the listeners could know which river that is. You're gonna have to reach out to Tristan for that one. I don't even have the heart to ask him. But good for you. That's awesome.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
That is wild. What we've been talking for a little while now, and we've covered a lot of ground. You are involved in all sorts of different stuff. What are you most excited about? Maybe saying most is, I don't want to say most. What are you excited about of anything upcoming here in the industry, or that you're a part of, or that you want to let the listeners know?
So I'd say right now, the thing I'm really excited for is I got a trip going up to the UP here. Not this weekend, the following weekend. And I'm going up with Chris Thalman, who's like a big brother to me, one of my best friends. We call him Debo. And we're actually taking the new Lake Effect Feisty Fries I was telling you about.
Yeah.
We're gonna get our hands on those. We're gonna take them up to the UP. I got 3 lakes in particular that I'm really looking forward to hit. We're just going to do some kayak fishing. And then there's also a river right in the area that I've read has some really big brookies and browns in it. So anytime I get that opportunity to get up to, the famous, beautiful Michigan Upper Peninsula, I can't, just even talking about it is making the hair on the back of my neck stand up, because it's such a remarkable, beautiful place.
There's different air up there.
It is. It really is.
Oh yeah.
And so I am super, super pumped. We're bringing up some camera gear. We're going to be doing a little filming up there. We're getting ready for Lake Effect to start a YouTube page. So we've been putting a team together, so hopefully we can get enough footage up there to maybe get our first episode done before this winter hits. So I'd definitely say that's what I'm on my upcoming schedule. That's definitely what I'm looking forward to.
That's exciting. Mm-hmm. Gosh, man. Yeah. Well, we certainly want to be a part of whatever you guys are putting together.
Awesome.
Absolutely want to be a part of Michigan Trout Addicts in the upcoming tournaments that you have. So people can certainly go to our website, find information on that. We'll get that in the coming weeks here, probably before we drop this episode. To wrap things up, what are some final thoughts?
If you'd like, you can find Michigan Trout Addicts on Facebook. Most of it's ran through the Facebook page. MichiganTroutAddicts.com is the webpage. But like I said, the Facebook page is where most of it's at. We'll actually be running the youth tournament this Saturday. I will be out with my 3 kids.
There you go.
My 2 sons and my daughter will be fishing the tournament this weekend. I'll be with them. Steve, who they call Uncle Steve, will be there with us. Some of my other buddies, so we're just going to take the kids fishing, enjoy it, so like I said, MichiganTroutAddicts.com or on Facebook. Lake Effect Lures also on Facebook and Instagram, LakeEffectLures.com, the company I work for. So if you're into ice fishing, please check it out.
And then how can they find you?
Finding me I'm on Instagram as Hippie Mountain Man, HIPPIEMTNMAN. That's my that would be my tag.
Yeah, Hippie Mountain Man. You got to find him. He posts some amazing pictures
I appreciate
of trout, and really thank you so much for coming on the podcast today and dropping crazy knowledge of Michigan fisheries. Can't wait to have you back out and see everything that you're up to.
I appreciate you having me, and anytime you want me back, I will gladly do it, my friend.
I really appreciate it, Tristan. Anytime. You take care.
You too.